Hey guys, so I want to walk you through three different techniques of looping samples. First one is a single cycle sample, and that's literally what it is. You pick one sample, one cycle of a sample, and you loop that, and you just treat it as a waveform that you use for synthesis. So you can filter it, add volume envelopes, and other techniques, vibrato, all these things that you can do with sound. But you're just replacing a standard waveform like sawtooth with whatever wave is coming from that sample. Second technique is a sustain loop, where you take the beginning of the sound and then you expand that. But because the sound has a fixed recording length, you need to loop a portion of that wave to make it sustain. So you keep the beginning of the sound, and when you get to the loop section, you're going to loop often one cycle, but you hear sound before that cycle occurs. And the third technique is one where we're intentionally looping to create a sense of animation in the sound, some sort of vibrato or tremolo kind of effect, maybe a wah-wah, where we have a sound that might be decaying, and we're going to grab a piece of that decay and we're going to loop it. And typically for that, we'll use a forward-backward loop. So as the sound begins, it starts here, it gets to the loop start, it's going to play to the loop end, and then it's going to go back and forth between the loop start and the loop end while you sustain the note. So that is the three techniques. Let's dive in. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this. I've got the video playing in front of me, and so we've got our basic tracks here. I've got track one, a single cycle loop. I've labeled it. I'm going to drag a sampler. You can drag it to the top where the track label is, or drop it in the bottom area. The next thing we need to do is find a sample. Now I've already chosen a sample I want to use, which is this big cluck sound from our clicks and drops folder. I'll drop that in. And we can go back to Ableton. There's the sound. And what we want to do is we want to move the start point so that we get the second click. And we don't need all that decay, so we're going to bring the end point of the loop there as well. Now, we also want to put on the loop mode, the forward loop mode, and we're going to move the beginning of the loop to where the click starts. So let's zoom in. And what we want to do for this single cycle loop technique is we want to pick out a cycle and make sure that we are putting both our loop start and our play start at the same point. So we've chosen a cycle here, and looks kind of like a sine wave but with some wiggly stuff, so it's got some more harmonics in there. Now the key to looping is to really zoom in, and we want to find a sample that's close to zero on both the left and right channels. I'm going to go with this one here. You notice the slider on the right, I'm able to expand the vertical height of the wave, so I'm getting to see where the wave is actually crossing the zero line. So it looks like that's one cycle too late. Let's hear it. Sounds good. Now you're just looping this one cycle, so you're good to go. We'll need to tune it, however. So I've set up an operator to help us with that. So all set up there. You'll notice that the sample start number and the loop start number match, right? Because they're starting at the same sample. Now that's middle C, and I'm playing middle C on the keyboard, but it doesn't sound like middle C. So we just raise the root note. Sounds too sharp, so I'm going to bring it down. Not quite there, so I'm going to push this up one root note. And try and get that beating to slow down to a complete stop. You might look at the master There's a nice buzziness to it. Now, we can also change the loop mode, so let's go to the forward-backward loop. That drops the pitch an octave. And that's kind of nice. There's the original loop, forward only. And there are other things we could explore as well. Now, keep in mind you can use a filter, so we can make it kind of mellow, but then give it a bit of filter envelope by bringing up the amount. Set the decay time for a little bit of brightness. Now we might do a similar decay only envelope for the amplitude, but we'll probably want the decay to be longer on that. So here's about 8 seconds. Very nice kind of pianistic kind of sound here. Of course we can add vibrato and wah-wah and tremolo and some other nice effects with the modulation section. Okay, we'll take a look at the second technique, creating a sustain loop. And here we are here. We've got sustain track all set up. I've already dropped a sampler on there, so it's time to grab a sample. For this one, I'm going to use this aw sound. And I like how it kind of climbs up to the pitch. Whoops, sorry. We turn off channel 1. It goes up and down in pitch, right? So if we could loop it at the peak of that pitch, we'd have a sound that would climb up to the pitch. Let's loop that. Pretty good. Now it sounds really weird and clicky, but we haven't identified the sample we want to loop. So let's pick one that looks pretty strong, and we'll bring this over to roughly the right spot. You have to zoom in if you want to get good results. So you can hear that's too high. And what we want to do is have the end pitch match the pitch right before it starts to loop. When you have the right loop length, you can move the loop around. Let's see what we got here. That looks pretty good on the left. It's a little bit late on the right, so let's maybe move that over a little bit, find a compromise position. I think that cycle is a little high on the left and a little low on the right, and now we go over here, and we have the same at the end. That's kind of cool. Now, we're using quite a bit of the attack here, and so you might want to move, we don't care about the end point, but you might want to move the beginning point to start a little later. Especially with low notes, it gets really long. So let's put this over maybe about here. A little pitch change. Very nice, actually. You can move it even closer. Much more subtle. I kind of liked it with a little bit more pitch, but that's too much. There we go. Yeah, and with a little reverb, sounds lovely. Again, you could add vibrato to that to get a more natural human voice sound. So let's take a look at how to tune this. It's the same procedure as we saw before. Play middle C. It's too high. So we'll switch over to the sample tab and go to the root. Pick the one that we think is closest. Got a little stuck here. Let's try it again. For some reason having some difficulty. There we go. Yeah, pretty good. Close enough. All right, we can turn that off. So you see how the notes are playing from the beginning and then looping at the cycle we've chosen to loop. So let's dig in. Now over here I have looks like a track 3 is my animated sample. I've got my sampler here, so let's go and find our sound, and we're going to use the short hand whistle for this. You can see a nice looking decay over there on the right. And so we set up our loop parameters. Yeah, hear a little bit of this nice wind sound. So we're going to go and set up our forward loop, and we're going to move the loop end somewhere near the end of the sustain. I want to do it before that little bump at the end. There we go. And for this we'll go forward backward, which means we want to loop on a peak, not on the 0 line. You can hear we've kind of brought that clicking down quite a bit. And while it's not perfect, we can spend a little more time looping it. It's pretty nice. Now, of course, at a higher pitch, it's going to do the modulation quicker. Right, you'll get a real click if you try the forward loop, but the forward backward works pretty well. And that's really all there is to it. Again, you might want to set a little bit of release time, and what you'll notice is that as you let go of the note, it continues looping. And there it is. And of course, we need to be able to tune that animated loop as well, so let's get that going. So we have our animated sample again. We've got our middle C reference. I'm playing middle C on the keyboard, so I want my root note to match the pitch. Actually, since recording this, I realize I've actually got middle C on the reference note, but I'm playing C above middle C on the root note. That's fine though. So I've tuned it up. And that little bit of animation just keeps it all moving in a very nice way. So there's one more technique I want to go over with you, and that's tuning a non-pitched instrument. So let's dig into that. So I'm pulling up the video for the non-pitched. And here I have I'm going to create a new track here. So let's insert a MIDI track, and we'll drag a sampler over and drop it on the label of the track, putting a sampler down below. Now let's go and grab this HSC knock 1 wave, and it sounds like this. And we'll adjust our playback point. So we'll put our playback marker over there. Let's turn on the loop. And we'll move our loop start to match the playback marker. Whoops. And click and drag down to zoom in. And we want to find that spot where we think it's really kind of leaving the 0 line. It's kind of arbitrary, but we'll go with that. Notice the loop start is at 393. Now I'm going to switch over to the chart, and this chart is linked in the assignment, and there's links in the course. Keep in mind that you need to set the proper sampling rate because your loop is going to be measured in numbers of samples. So I've got 48K, which is our sample rate, which means that if I want middle C, C3, 261 hertz, I need 183 samples. So I'm going to pull up the calculator, and we'll just type in 393, which is our current loop start, and we're going to add 183 to that. So we do that, we calculate that we need the loop to end at 576. So I'm just going to click on loop end and type 576, hit enter, and we've resized our loop to be the proper length. Now let's hear it. Middle C. Sounds great. Nice rich pulse wave. Let's hear the reference. It's pretty good. But it is a couple saunts flat, so I'm going to bring this up. Get rid of any beating. And in fact, this chart will show you an error column on the right, and it's telling you that 183 is the right loop length, but you need to bring it up 4 hundredths of a second. Beautifully in tune, of course, in either forward or backward. So there's a single cycle loop when I don't have even a sample. And that's because we're using a calculated loop length.